Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, we're going to head north for broadcast innovation, building studios more easily that work better and have some real networked innovation in them. We're going to be talking to Tyler and Grant from Pippin Technical Service. They not only sell equipment, they build radio stations, and they have to service a lot of them too. That's coming up next on TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionic Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Aiir, featuring Playout One radio automation software, comprehensive streaming solutions, website content management, and social media tools for maximum listener engagement on the web at aiir.com. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb from the top of the tower. I'm Kirk Harnack, your host. Delighted to be here. It's our 750th show. Woo! Yeah. Woohoo! Figure I can get that out. Man, we've been doing this about 16 years. And our producer, Suncast, who's doing the switching back at Command Central, he's been with us almost that long himself, so I really appreciate Suncast hanging in there. Chris Tarr, I thought he was going to join us. He was getting stuck at a studio or transmitter site. We'll see if he can join us sometime today. If he can, that's great. But even if he can't, our guests are here. So first of all, I'm at the Telos Alliance studio. You can see by the right there, Telos Alliance, love what you hear, studio in Nashville, Tennessee. It's turned out to be a beautiful day here in Nashville. We had a dreary day this morning. It was just kind of yucky and it was spitting rain, and we still may have some rain, but it's just turned into a lovely, lovely day. I saw the trivial point. The solar panels on my roof about an hour ago were producing 12 kilowatts of electricity. How about that? Charging the battery, running the AC, and sending most of it back to the power company. So meter spinning backwards. All right, enough of that. Let's bring in a couple of guys who also spin backwards, and that would be Tyler Everett and Grant Biebrick. Tyler, Grant, welcome in. It's great to see you.
When you talk about spin, I think about which way you put your FM antenna on.
Oh, you do? Well, see? You are a nerd.
Yeah. Well, some of them turn this way, some of them turn this way. So
really, and do the radio receivers care which way it goes?
Well, maybe that's why some people sound kind of backwards on their programming. I don't know.
That's right, because the circular polarity is wrong. Well, when they actually do circular polarity didn't they used to do that for ENG shots, and they do it for some satellite communications. They have circular polarity, and it's got to be right. It's got to be the right. The corkscrew's got to go the correct direction. Hey, Tyler, Tell me real quick about yourself. Who are you other than my good friend from Canada?
Well, I have been for a while now the president of Pippin Technical Service, and it's kind of a lot of letters, so we just shorten it to PTS sometimes. And we are a equipment supplier, systems integrator, and manufacturer of equipment of our own here in Canada and abroad. And we're looking after Canada from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, where it's sunny and 31 degrees Celsius. It's a hot day for this time of year for us.
I love your town, man. How flat is it in Saskatoon? You can see how far?
When I went to Expo 86, that's where I learned all the flat Saskatchewan jokes. That was in Vancouver, and that's where they told all of the "you can see your dog run away for 3 days" jokes. And
that's right.
When I went to school in Calgary, I had a friend who genuinely believed that if you were in the Calgary Tower, that you could see Saskatoon from there. So you must have been a flat earther too, because that's just not.
There's several. Yeah. Hey, and Grant Biebrick joins us as well. Grant, it's great to see you, man. You've got the beautiful window view. Now, wait, Tyler's got a good window view, but you choose to have yours behind you.
I don't know who set up the desks. It works better this way.
It works better for you. Cool.
Yeah. If I was looking that way, I'd never get anything done.
Well, it is a good view. Where's the airport? Is it right across the street somewhere?
Yeah, it's like a couple kilometers that way.
Okay. You can watch the plane come in. Grant,
Yeah.
tell me about Grant real quick. Who's Grant Biebrick?
Oh, lifelong broadcast guy, basically. I did 20 years in copy and programming, and then I moved over to the broadcast technical side of the business when I moved to Saskatoon, and found myself working at the place that built every radio station I ever worked at. So, yeah, kind of lined up.
Wait, so you were on Air Talent, and you said you did copywriting, so you were on the creative side of things.
Yeah, I was 10 years as a copywriter, creative director, and then I was an APD program director.
See, now
never held down an air shift, but I did host the weekly countdown for like a decade, and some voice tracking and stuff, but never a live shift.
This better explains our conversation from yesterday when you and I and Tyler, we were kind of jamming on a title for a presentation, and Tyler said, "Let Grant work on it. He's good at that." Now it makes sense.
I have some fun. Yeah.
I didn't know that about you. Well, hey, we're going to jump into the show here in a minute. So some of the things the topic of the show, at least I think the topic of the show, Grant and Tyler may take it a slightly different direction. But, when you're in Saskatoon, yes, you've got shipping and air service and all that, but you are kind of isolated. It's a long ways to the next big city. And so when they come up with solutions, when a solution is needed for something in broadcast, what I've noticed is that Tyler and his crew, they're not afraid to invent what's needed, and they're not afraid to charge money for it either. And I'll relate to you as a preface to what we're going to talk about. Years ago, when Telos, my employer, introduced the Telos VX phone system, the SIP-based, voice over IP on-air broadcast phone system, we were having to help dealers and customers to understand the notion of a SIP PBX if you're going to have that on site. Nowadays, a lot of that's hosted in the cloud, but if you're going to put one on site, what you needed to do to spec one or build one yourself or buy one off the shelf, and to program it so that it would turn SIP trunks into SIP extensions and route calls effectively. Well, Tyler said, well, wait a minute. Can't we just do this for the radio station's business phones as well? It doesn't have to be limited to their on-air phones. And said, well, yeah, exactly. You could do that. And so what did they do? They made a business out of selling phone systems in addition to everything else to their radio station customers. And I thought, what initiative and what an understanding of, hey, as long as you're doing this anyway for on the air and the radio station is going to be moving over to SIP anyway, hey, build and design and sell them that stuff as well. And it'll all be under one roof and it'll all work really well and sound good. So that really kind of turned me on to the innovation mindset that Tyler and Pippin Technical Service has. So we're going to, I'll brag on them some more later, but just that was my first indication. These guys are going to invent some other stuff, and they sure have. So we're going to talk about that. Our show This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by my friend Ricky Lee at Aiir, AIIR.com. Let's hear from Ricky. We'll be right back. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Ricky Lee, the CEO of Aiir. Ricky, you guys make a fantastic automation system, but streaming is a really big deal. Tell me about streaming with Aiir.
It really is. We've got a beautiful streaming platform with an incredible dashboard with fantastic analytics. And you can buy it for just $20 a month. All you can eat. No limits on bandwidth or bit rates. And you can also record shows as well. So if you like to deliver on-demand content for $20 a month, you can stream and deliver that on-demand content to an RSS feed that can feed your radio player, your mobile apps, or a podcast that people can download and enjoy.
Now, $20 a month, that must be for just some slow MP3, right?
No, MP3, AAC, and we also now support HLS, which is big in the industry right now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How do I start to explore or find out more about streaming through Aiir?
You go to aiir.com, AIIR.com/streaming. And from there, with a credit card, you can sign up and get started.
Aiir is also the inventor, purveyor, that supporter of all things Playout One, an automation system that's just fantastic. And they've just introduced a music scheduling software as well that works directly with Playout One and with other automation systems. We'll bring you more information about that later. Aiir, AIIR.com. Thanks for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right, we are here with Grant Biebrick and Tyler Everett with PTS, Pippin Technical Service. And Tyler, the story I told about you, telephone systems, grabbing the bull by the horns and taking off with it, does that ring true?
Actually, when you told the story, I was like, I can't believe he remembers that, because that was quite a while ago. That was a long time ago. But yeah, you pretty much told it exactly how I remember it. It was a conversation we were having about how VX works and what it does, and then how we build a gateway to do, and at the time, a lot of PRI and POTS conversion as well. So we were doing that, and we talked about that, and that's where I remember saying, why couldn't we do this for the whole radio station? And that was always my frustration back in my radio engineering days, is I had one system that did all my on-air stuff. I had another system that did all the office stuff. And if somebody called the wrong one, they wanted to pick up their prize, but they called the on-air studio, they had to say, well, you'll have to call back to this number. And I just always bothered me that we didn't have this unified system. And I mean, this is an Einstein or Tesla type level unification, but it sure felt great to be able to finally make it so that you could route a call anywhere in the building. If a client called, wanted to talk to their sales guy, and it was after hours, and it went up to the control room, he could push it back down to the office where the sales guys are. Those were the real world things that I always had to deal with, and this just solved it. So yeah, that was actually kind of a big day when we made that realization that we could finally break those barriers down.
Well, and you guys have been breaking down some barriers ever since. And so, hey, this show is going to be a lot about you and Grant telling the story about different, over the years, different products that you've developed where there was just this gaping hole need for something that would do a thing, and off-the-shelf solutions either didn't exist or weren't exactly what your customers were looking for. And I'll preface this by saying most of the solutions we're looking at that you guys have come up with are involved with the world of audio over IP, and perhaps specifically about Axia and the Livewire protocol. Although they can mix and match with other protocols on the same network as well. Where would you like to start on this tale of solving problems?
Well, I think since we're talking phones, we could probably start there.
Yeah.
To my left,
okay.
I have a little light here. It's called Beacon. And this is sort of where it all began for us in a lot of ways. You're right. Almost everything we do is audio over IP related. And a lot of that is adding elegance to the GPIO side of things. TELUS Alliance and many of the other manufacturers have done a really fantastic job of creating the ability to move audio and do routing. And there's metadata a lot of times associated with it, GPIO and stuff like that. What we found is when we get to the real world, and because we are systems integrators, we build radio stations for people, we have been for many years, this became a little bit of an area that could do a little bit more. And we wanted to basically take the elegance of that we saw in a lot of these AOIP networks and bring that into the GPIO world a little bit. So we started talking about various projects. And along the way, I was sharing some of my ideas with a customer, good friend of mine as well. And he came back, they just bought a VX, and they said, do you make a light that flashes for if the phone call comes in? And I mean, we all could make that, right? Any good engineer knows how to grab a GPIO node, and there's interfaces that you can use and all that. So we're not making a new mousetrap, but of course we're making a bit of a better one. So that's where Beacon was born, and that's what we're looking at right here. If you can operate a screwdriver to put 3 screws in to attach that to your wall, you are qualified to install a Beacon. We can take care of the rest. And so the other side of it is really simple. There's just one connection, a Cat5 connection, and we can go in and program, because what we've done is, and I've got one that's apart here, I buy these as a light, and then we go to town on the inside, and we added our own board. So there's our own board on the inside. It's got our logo on it in there somewhere. You can see that right there is our logo.
PTS.
Yeah. Man, everything's backwards. We got to fix that. Anyways, so So we added our own board, put a Livewire jack on it. You literally plug this into your switch. If it's a PoE switch, the PoE will actually drive these LEDs. And you can then go in. It has an embedded web server. You go in and program it, and you tell it what channel to watch for. So when a phone call comes in, it flashes. I know this is an overly used statement, but it's literally that simple. Plug it in, do a little bit of programming, and now you've got non-audible notification of telephone calls, which every live studio needs. And so this is really this is probably where it all began for us. And then of course it went to other ideas after that.
I want to clearly differentiate what you're showing us from what many people have built up, including Telos Alliance has made some accessories that they may have an RJ45 jack on it like yours does, but a lot of people have made accessories, including Telos, that the RJ45 jack is just that jack, and it receives power and GPOs from a GPIO box. And so in other words, you've got to have a GPIO box. So that's really not a networked connection. For the last 20 years, people have made accessories like that. But wait a minute, that flasher is actually a network device. It has an IP address, right?
Right. Yep. There's a network port right in. That is an actual network port. If you see, there's lights on it and everything. That is a real. Yeah. There's a MAC address. Actually, if I can get squared up here. It used to be in backwards. Yeah. There's a MAC address there. This is a network device. We've written actually a subset of Pathfinder in it is what we've done. We take advantage of the Livewire routing protocol, Livewire control protocol, and we've written that into, that's what this board is doing. That's what the board has. It's got, the protocols basically baked right into it. And then we use the PoE to drive the lights. So this is, it is not using a Cat5 connection and Cat5 cable as a convenience. It is a network device. It is an IoT almost type device.
I just want to make that clear differentiation, because there are plenty of devices over the last 20 years that have just been kind of like dumb devices, and they're operated by, literal contact closures across the Cat5 cable. And there's anything wrong with that. I just hooked up a bunch of satellite receivers in Hawaii that way to adapters, to the 15-pin connector that is your typical GPIO connector on Axia devices, and to carry contact closures from the satellite receiver. But what you've got ain't that. It is an actual network device with an IP address, which also means, and we're going to have time to mention this later, and Grant can chime in too if he likes, you just need to get it plugged in. You can probably, I'm guessing you can program this thing to flash at the right time remotely. You don't have to be there on site to do that.
It's an HTML5 GUI for configuration. So you go to the website, you log in. The default password will be quite familiar to Axia users.
Okay.
To get into it. And you can set the IP address and you monitor the channel. And Beacon is primarily designed to be the phone flasher for VX, and you'd monitor whatever channel and GPIO port that the VX is informing people your line ringing status is going to be on. But we can monitor any Axia channel and any pin, so pin 1 through 5 on whichever Axia port you'd like, your Livewire channel, and that can be the trigger. So other few use cases, if you wanted to use it as like a door alarm or something and you have a contact closure somewhere, you could have it flash then, monitored through the Axia network. You can monitor if your phone rings. Somebody was mentioning with an Infinity system, it could be like catch the producer's attention and send a GPIO pulse through the network and catch their attention. Or an off-air alarm, it could wire up and be used for that. Kind of the sky's the limit is where you want a flashing amber light to do the job.
Works for Color One as well.
Yeah, it works on Color One as well as VX.
Okay. Now, I'm guessing the Livewire, that protocol is not too complicated, but you guys have made it dead simple. You just put in a channel number after you've IP address.
It's incredibly hard to figure out, Kirk.
the channel number and pin number. The manual for it is I think 2 pages. It's like a screenshot of this is where you type in a number on the VX, and then this is where you type that same number in on Beacon. and you're done.
So we're on this topic of indicators. I think you've got another product that you guys developed that's a little fancier schmancier. Is that the Aurora product?
Yeah.
Before we get to Aurora, though, we should probably talk about the evolution of this. Was someone said, that would be really neat if you could make this work as an on-air light. So we did. And so we made an on-air light featuring the Beacon technology. And since Grant wasn't here that day, I got to name it. And so I call it OALFB.
OALFB.
So we take a pretty standard
light.
Yeah, we take a pretty standard on-air light, and then we stuff it with the network. It's a slightly different form factor here. This one we're actually using for another product as well. But this one will go in, it goes into the box, and it turns the light on, and this one goes solid instead of flashing. And yeah. Network port on the back, plug it in.
Yeah, and it's the exact same concept. You don't have to bring, DC or even 110 AC up to a wall somewhere. You get your structured cabling guy to do a drop wherever you want your on-air light, and you're basically done. We can program it for you even if you need us to. From Saskatoon, which you were saying is in the middle of nowhere. So these kinds of solutions extend our usable reach to a certain degree, because as I said at the beginning, if you can run a screwdriver, you're qualified to install this, we can take care of the rest for you. So that's a big part of what we try to do, is make life easier, because time is money and people want to get things done. And, people are finding that they have a lot more things that they're responsible for, so we can make life easier. That makes life better for everybody. So the on-air light featuring Beacon, OALFB, was the kind of the logical extension of Beacon. And then, of course, one of our colleagues said, "Do you make an OEM version of that so I could power just about anything I want?" And I said, "Sure, we'll make OALFB OEM." So now we make that too. And it's basically just a box then that you can drive whatever you want. So if you want to have fancy lights in your control room that change color during a commercial break and live, or different music, or how it is with people are doing cameras and they want to do different stuff, then OALFB OEM might be what you need. So all of this is it's the same product. We're just packaging it slightly different to do different things.
Tell me about this development process. You've got a chipset on there. Can you tell me about the technologies that are involved with that chipset? That's way outside of my wheelhouse.
It's an IoT system on a chip. It's got enough power to do what we need it to do. It can host the web server, and then we've kind of designed the PCBs around it to enable the PoE for the products. And yeah, we're kind of designed and spun up the PCBs right here in Saskatoon. Our supply chain is pretty much straight Canadian. That makes things a little easier for us on getting stuff.
Yeah.
Don't have to get things across the border. Kind of a homegrown product for us.
Wow. I think that's pretty amazing. Well, cool. So we have the on-air light and the Beacon, and then this Aurora thing, which I've seen, and I'm still not sure I understood what it is, but it's pretty cool. Yeah.
This is Aurora. The one thing we'd like to point out, we've got an e-paper display on the front, because as integrators, nothing drives you crazier than having to take a Sharpie and put something on a masking tape, or get a label maker and put it on your product. We put e-paper on there. That way you can configure it in advance back in the shop. You can then walk into the studio. You can have multiple units, and you know exactly which one it is and where it goes, because you can put a studio name on there. It's got the IP address. From within the GUI, you can remove that if you don't want that visible to people that are walking around in the room. But yeah, you can do that. And the other fun thing is the label name there. It also displays on the HTML5 GUI. So when you're logged in, if you give it a room location, then you know exactly which room. And when you're sitting at your computer doing multiple units, you can just look in the corner and it'll tell you, oh, that's the unit I'm configuring. And it's right there and accessible. So Aurora is designed to be an interface for the lit stack, as well as up to 4 of the Yellowtech Mika mic booms. So we do that configuration Same HTML5 GUI. You can take your mics, go in here, and then your mics with control going back the other way, tell the mic booms if you want to be red, if you want to be white, if you want to alternate patterns. We have some PWM on there, so we have some flash patterns and varying brightnesses that you can do there. And there is a very, very involved priority stack system that when you're configuring it, that you can have lights be doing one thing and flashing a certain pattern for one instance, and then say somebody wants to do a talkback, then you can override and say, okay, when the light's red, when the mic's on, producer needs to get a hold of you, it'll flip over to white. We handle all that priority stacking, and all the logic happens within the box. All you got to do is put in your Livewire channels and your pin numbers, and we'll follow that and build it out. And no external devices are required. So all of this, we use subsets of Pathfinder, but you don't have to use Pathfinder. You can even keep those logic points for more important things. This turns on the lights, handles the lights, and makes sure that they're working the way you want them to. And then for people that don't have an AOIP environment, but they still want to get some of the features of this, we gave a few contact closures that you can trigger it with an analog console or something like that if you want. Yeah, and the lit stack there. So that gives you an RJ45 goes out, and then you would just connect the cabling the same way you normally would. You have to kind of fan it out and put the pins in there.
So
wires in there.
What it seems like this kind of product with all the things you can do with lights on mic stands, and I've got a pretty ordinary one here myself, but this is this for the modern mic arms that have the LED lights that by their you by their color you can tell what they're going to do or what they're doing or getting your attention? Or would I imagine that, let's say you're a big talk station and you've got a guest panel there and somebody said a naughty word, and so you had to hit the dump button on the profanity delay. Now for a few moments you're not in delay anymore. Can you like flash everybody's, hey, we're not in delay, everybody watch your tongue? Can you do that?
We can trigger that. Yeah. Actually, one of the very first use cases we had, and the first one I sold, was somebody had a very unique situation where they wanted to use the, you can get the 5 colors. You can also get an audible chirper. And they wanted the chirper to go and be audible so that people would know there's a phone call coming in. But they didn't want that to go on over the air. And the way that I guess the Yellowtech software for the base controller is configured, they don't have that prioritization. You can't remove the chirper from doing its thing if another light goes on. With Aurora, you can. We can mute a color if another color is active. So they can have the chirper going, so phone's ringing, and then, they got to turn the mic on. You don't want that chirper to be chirping still. So we just, every time the red mic light goes on to say the mic's live, we configured the chirper to be on the green light, I think. It just blocks the green light from being able to turn on whenever the red's on. So that's all part of the priority structure that we built out in the back end.
Wow, this sounds fancy. What kind of call do you get for this device? I mean, I can see where, if I'm building a talk station and whether or not money is an object or not, I can certainly see the usefulness here in the way that it can help your execution of your show go more smoothly. But what kind of demand do you have for a product like that?
We're getting it out there. It's still fairly new. We've got a few really solid beta sites that are giving us some solid feedback on just different things that are happening or different use cases. Because no matter what we've thought of in the background, as soon as you put it in the field, somebody's going to come up with a different use case, and they want to, hey, why doesn't it do this? Or, hey, that totally did something different than they were expecting. So we're working through that, but it's the unique proposition for it is just it speeds up the deployment within studios. The goal with Aurora was to get to the point that you could basically do a solder-free install. So if you got the mic arms and you had them pre-terminated with the XLRs already pre-terminated on them, we came up with a little interface So 5 pins in there, RJ45 on the back.
Of course.
Plug and play. No soldering required.
Tyler, Grant said something that we're going to be hitting on right after this commercial break, or sometime after, and that is the solderless studio build. You mentioned this yesterday when we were doing some pre-show planning, and I love this, solderless. Maybe not all quite snapped together yet, but we're getting close to the snap together studio. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, Tyler Everett, and Grant Biebrick, our guests. They're from up in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and they come up with some pretty interesting things. I'm really impressed with the whole chipset and programming that to just make it a network device on an Axia network. That's so cool. But we've got more to talk about, including a computer solution that is working out even way better than they expected, because there's so many places that it's useful. Our show is brought to you in part by folks at Broadcast Bionics and Camera One, and I would imagine that Camera One could also be integrated in with Aurora to even let you know not only that your mic is on the air, but maybe that the camera is pointing at you. So you better smile, show those pearly whites, and be on your best behavior. Don't pick your nose. That's coming up. We'll have more of the show coming up after we hear this from Broadcast Bionics.
Camera One from Broadcast Bionics. Designed to bring video to your audio content. Visualizing radio and podcasts for social media. Camera One can automatically create, capture and brand professionally switched video for live streaming or upload, making your production shareable. Control and configure using a web browser on any device. Camera One is available as a 4-camera or 8-camera system using the Blackmagic A10 Mini range, including the A10 Mini Extreme. You can use cameras to suit your studio and your budget. You'll need 1 camera for a studio wide shot and usually 1 camera per microphone. A standard multi-channel sound card or IP driver monitors audio from each studio microphone, and we work natively with Axia systems. Ideally, this will be a post-fader feed from each mic, although you can use pre-fade audio or a mic split if that's all you have available. These audio levels are used to intelligently switch the video feed when each contributor is talking. You can also group microphones together into one shot and use the audio from a mixer's aux bus. You can use Camera One's auto switch feature, or disable it and switch using the on-screen buttons or the buttons on the A10. Recordings can automatically start when you tell the system you're on the air. This on-air indication can be linked to your studio's red lights via IP or an Avantec Adam GPIO interface. You can quickly browse all the videos that have been automatically created during your broadcast, download them and post. Camera One is a user installable system. You'll need a good spec Windows 10 PC, i7 with plenty of storage and 16 gig of RAM. It's better if this machine isn't used for anything else. Remember, you can control the software in a web browser on another device on your network. Camera One, a thrifty way of creating scroll-stopping video from your show or podcast from Broadcast Bionics.
Big thanks to Broadcast Bionics for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. They are full of ideas. They're kind of, they're over in England, and their products are available around the world, including Virtual Rack and all the studio helper software. Great stuff from Broadcast Bionics. Thanks so much. All right, we're talking with Grant and Tyler from Pippin Technical Service. And Tyler, you want to tell us more about this whole idea of the solderless studio installation? I'm sure the folks at Weller are pretty upset with you about this.
Well, I think, when I started out, it was to get rid of tape. We're going to be tapeless someday. And that just was like, how can you imagine having no tape? Because we had reel-to-reels and carts, and then someday it's all going to be on sound cards. And then, it wasn't long after that. It was like, can you imagine soon it will be no sound cards? It'll just be IP. And so, that's coming. And now, as we go along and build stations and studios, it is getting to be pretty close to possible to be able to do it without any kind of soldering at all. As Grant pointed out, if we have a few items that are pre-terminated, whether we order them that way or do that for you before we send it out, what's left, everything's on Cat5, a couple of XLRs for mics, which, we can sort of cheat our way around. And suddenly, soldering is sort of, something that is pretty much out the door now. So, if you got your Weller shares, you may want to dump those, because they're probably not selling as much.
In fact, I remember I was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I guess it was right around COVID beginning. I was tasked with building a new production room at a little bitty station in Indianola, Mississippi, and we were putting in a new Axia console in there. And I knew the whole thing would be simplified. We got rid of the sound cards using IP drivers, and just got rid of several things. But the one thing that I couldn't get rid of yet, because it's one of these, it's a black gospel station, and preachers still bring their sermons in on cassette. So they still needed a cassette machine in the production room to dub them in. And so I had everything where I hadn't plugged in the soldering iron yet. I'd been working on this thing for about 4, 5, 6 hours. And I'm thinking I'm done. I remembered, the cassette deck. And I don't have like a Henry matchbox or something to go from, unbalanced RCA connectors. And the cassette deck was just a consumer deck into our Axia, a Core 16 box. So I ended up having to make a cable, and you can guess that I had to get the soldering iron out, and I was really unhappy about having to get the soldering iron out.
Broke the seal.
Broke.
Well,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
The user feedback from, again, the first studio that put an Aurora in was that getting it all wired up and connected probably saved them half a day on site, just being able to click it. So when you're talking about traveling to the other side of the country and you're paying for hotel and everything else, the number of time you can shave off of actually being actively on site, just by being able to click and play, speeds up the process a fair bit.
Indeed. Indeed. I learned my lesson too, probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago. No, maybe longer than that. I had a bunch of satellite receivers to wire GPIOs into an Axia GPIO node. And so I spent, the better part of a day and a half, with little pins and figuring out jumpers and +5 pull up and ground these and all this, and then wiring them over to the GPIO node. And then, of course, I discovered that several companies make, but certainly one of our sponsors, Angry Audio, makes little adapters to go from GPIO, so you can just plug. And that's what I did in Hawaii. And that worked out great. And now there are even some other solutions, like our friend Alex Hartman and Jim Gray have a really interesting smart solution that's remotely adjustable. You can remotely adjust, hey, this closure from this satellite receiver will hit, this GPI on an Axia system. So, and then we got satellite receivers that do their own Livewire GPIO, because that's becoming such a standard. Okay, enough about that. We want to move into this XR1 platform, Tyler. We've talked about it before on the show when it was new, and you say that it's expanded into more and more uses, that you can use this platform for lots of things. You want to tell us about that?
Yes, and I got to give Grant a lot of credit. He kind of invented it. Maybe I'm using that word a little too loosely, because how do you invent something that's already exists? But basically, the concept for XR1 is pretty straightforward. I call it a computing appliance, because personally I don't really like computers all that much. It seems like I work on them more than they do things for me, whether it's upgrades or stuff doesn't work or interfacing with something else. And these are all problems we're trying to solve with XR1. So a lot of the things people use XR1 for, they actually order the software from us as well. So we've done a lot of container-based deployments of consoles or phone systems or processing, so that we can send those out to people who want to take advantage of the benefits of virtualization. They don't have the time or the energy or whatever it happens to be, maybe to learn that at this point in time, but they want to be on the leading edge. And so the easiest example of that is an Altus. If you wanted to have a little console, but you wanted to get on this cool touchscreen console kind of thing, and that's as far as you want to take it, you call us up. We're going to install that for you on an XR1 and send that out. So what's an XR1? It's very simple. It's a fanless 1U computer that Grant just showed you. And it's an i5 with, I think, 16 gig of RAM and solid state memory and drives. So there's no moving parts whatsoever. It's a standard part for us. We assemble them all here out of parts and pieces of brands you know and love, and then we can sell it just as a unit. It has a price on, and it's in our system. Or people will often, as I mentioned, buy it in conjunction with some software. Now, and if you call us, the phone call that I'm on is on an XR1 with an asterisk system. So we've done phone systems for people with it, console systems, processing systems, and now the latest, or at least the one that's getting a lot of attention, is AlertBox, where we actually have a purpose-built version of XR1 that is doing alerting, because we put a little relay board in there to be able to handle the audio coming in and going out. And so that's another example of where we're taking XR1 turning into a purpose-built thing. We're starting to develop software specifically for it to build our own appliances that work, and it's all on the same platform for all of this stuff, which makes it simple for us. Like, we're building these in volume, and they're on the shelf. And then I think to wrap it all up, to make it broadcast ready, we also offer a redundant power supply system for it as well that you can add on, called XRV. And it simply doubles up the power supply, has an external interface so that you can see the little lights on, so you know that it's worked, that the two power supplies are working, and allows you to have redundant power supplies in a 1U, fanless, totally quiet, no moving parts type system. So it's been incredibly popular.
I love the concept here, because myself, I'm not a heavy duty IT guy. Yeah, I can struggle my way through a server setup. I know who to call for help, that kind of thing. And so sometimes, I choose to use smaller computers, individual computers, to do individual jobs, but they seem a little flimsy for the purpose. They seem a little consumers for the purpose. So you've taken, off the shelf hardware and put it together in a broadcast friendly box, such that and gotten the things right, like no moving parts, no fans. It can sit right in the studio, or you can rack up a whole bunch of them in the rack room if you need to. I think this is genius, and you only need, if you got a bunch of them and you want to have some spare, perhaps one spare could do you, and you wouldn't need to have parts for this server or parts for that server. One's an HP, one's a Dell, one's a this and a that. You've got a lot of consistency going on, and you know what is powering and what is throughout, a lot of functionality in your facility. Am I on the right track with the thinking there?
Absolutely right. Yeah, it's kind of like the K car of the broadcast equipment world, right? Like, hey, where have I seen these door handles? It's the same as every other Dodge car.
That's right.
That's kind of how we try to be.
Yeah. Why is the door handle on my Volkswagen the same as on my Porsche?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we try to do is and for that exact reason, is to try to keep spares down. So, you can have a building full of these XR1s doing different things. And if you want to have a spare one, it can be the spare for a lot of different systems that you have. It can also go all over your chain of stations if you have different stations. So it's trying to simplify. It's kind of just the whole vision that we have towards things, is keeping it simple. And they don't even let us do time change here. So it's really because we're simple people, and we try to build simple products because that's as good as we're ever going to get.
I guess, and I don't want to. We're talking about the technology here, and I love talking about the motivation that goes behind putting the technologies together. And it's like the company I work for, Telos Alliance. Steve Church and the engineers at Telos, they didn't exactly invent Livewire. They took the protocols that already existed and put them together in a meaningful way, and then wrapped, some nice graphics around it, so you could point and click and route things around and have this operate reliably, especially if your industry standard Ethernet switch was set up correctly. And so much of what we do in broadcast, or in a lot of industries, is like that. We take existing things and put them together. I'm sure Frank Foti would characterize this as cooking, as a chef, right? So my wife is a chef. She cooks fantastic meals, but it's all off the stuff. She's not inventing any new spices, but she's putting them together in ways that are really, really pleasing. I'm not sure how I got off on being a chef, but necessity is the mother of invention. You guys find needs. Hey, I think we could solve that problem by putting these kind of standard things together. Speaking of solving problems, you'd think there's enough speakers on the market already. But no, there's not apparently, because you guys came up with a speaker design. What's that about?
Well, it's a great story. Again, building radio stations. One day, we were big KRK users. And why? Because people like them and the price is right and they're available and they're good and easy to find. And all of a sudden I called the rep to order some up and they said, those discontinued. So I panicked and bought all the ones I could get my hands on, essentially cleaned out the factory. And that was the end of KRK passives. The actives, of course, still there. And we like passives make sense in certain areas. We use them a lot for just confidence monitoring. A lot of times in an on-air studio, we put them up and out of the way, so they're not in camera shots. They're not in the eyesight, so that jocks can still see each other. So we like to get these speakers up and out of the way. They're just confidence monitors, and actives are fine to do that. But then going back to our earlier stuff, we don't want to have to run power and have an electrician come in, and it just gets to be problematic. So an amplifier and a pair of speakers, it's easy, and there's a place for that. But basically, the industry, no one makes them anymore. No one makes a passive studio type monitor anymore. Like, we were literally looking at speakers for home theater systems and stuff to try to, what are we going to do here? And so we do what we always do. Well, let's make our own. So the first prototype was square and looked like a speaker. And then, of course, Grant got in there because he's that creative guy. And we made him look like Saskatchewan, so people would remember where to get them from. And so that's why they're shaped that way.
To be honest, I was joking. I'm like, can we make it shaped like Saskatchewan? And then there was like a conversation in the hallways, and it was like, well, actually, that might actually work better with standing waves. And like the geeks in the back went to town with it and figured out, yeah, it actually might make them sound better. And then it's got a nice iconic design, and yeah, it is shaped like Saskatchewan. And if you put
Tyler,
two of them side by side, it also looks like the
yeah.
stereo image. So,
Tyler, you've got
that we don't live in Quebec.
That would be hard to make. Yeah,
curves.
Tyler, you've got an example behind you. Can you put that closer to the camera or not?
Oh, sure can. Yeah. No, this is PT speaker. This is the standard version right here. And we took these to the anechoic chamber at the University of Saskatchewan. So they've had their time. They've been listened to. Actually, and I'll give a little mention, Alex Hartman gave us some advice and some help and some feedback on them as well. So we took some of Alex's thoughts and we incorporated those. But standard 6.5-inch cone or the tweeter. The standard is a 2 kilohertz filter, I think. And we also make a 3.5 as a special edition. This is the black textured paint that we use. It's genuine speaker paint. What is it? The genuine Saskatchewan sealskin bindings holding it all together. That's an old Super Dave joke for those who are old enough to remember that. I do paint these in other colors. I've been working on doing a really nice high gloss. I was trying to do it in like only 1 or 2 stages because time. But it's taking several stages of sanding and wet sanding. And so I'm doing all that as well. So if somebody needs a special custom color for their sports team or their station colors, we offer that as well. Obviously, there's going to be a little extra cost to that, but because we have to order the paint and everything else. But we do color match if people want to have a color match set of these, because if they are going to be in a camera shot or you're going to see them, or they just want to match the motif of the room, we do offer that as well. So you got your standard black and then other colors as well. Passive, I know, and everybody says, well, when's the actives coming out? You know what? I do have thoughts about that. A little Livewire amplifier on these would be really cool. And so that's sort of on our radar for someday when we run out of things to do and ideas. But they've been successful. They've been popular. We've got a few installations out there, and people like them. I even did a set of stands for somebody once. I took the Mika pole, and then I put a thing on top of that and built a little thing for it to sit on because they wanted them up pointed right at the announcer. So it's custom stuff that we can do here. We do have basically a custom shop in the back. We have a paint booth here. So that's where I shoot the paint on these. So we have a full kind of facility here, which we did a tour on a previous episode, so people may remember that.
Yeah, you are living the dream, man, with your own paint shop, making speakers. I mean, that just sounds so cool. I love that, and I like the fact that you've got intelligence in the design. They actually sound good. What are the mounting options? Like, what if I wanted to mount it like upside down and hang it from the ceiling? Is that possible?
One of the things we wanted to make sure that we did was leave it the ability for people to do whatever they want. So this is an MDF cabinet. You may have noticed, like, I could barely lift it because it's so heavy, and I'm a really strong person, but these are heavy, which you want in a speaker, right? So they are heavy, and I think it's either 5/8 or 3/4. It's a solid material, and that serves two purposes. Obviously, you want them heavy so that they don't bounce around, but also that's a lot for people to put mounts into. And we make sure that we mount the crossover in there in an inconspicuous place so that you can put screws into the top, you can put screws into the bottom. It does have feet, you can take those off. We've got a great big area in the back. This is fully flat, so you can do mounting on the back, kind of keeping the options open for the user, to mount them however they want. So that was the big push behind making all these flat surfaces and having very little behind them, so that there's lots of meat to screw into to put your mounts wherever you need to put them.
Well, I heard that you're working on a PoE version, but you've got to use 12 PoE ports on your switch to get enough DC to it. Is that right?
That's right.
All right.
What's the running thing around here is everything we build has to be PoE. I got this thing, right? And it comes from an earlier product that we made called Chiron. And the guys put the little 12-volt jack on it. They ordered the 12-volt things. They're the right part number. They match. Everything's great. Had a production run of about 30 of these things. And just before we ship, we realized they don't fit. They just fall right out. So I said, no more of that. I don't care about standards. We're going PoE on everything because a Cat 5 fits, and we'll never have to worry about it again. So that was the reason. There's always a reason behind everything. And it's usually to make life simpler. If you don't have a PoE switch, they make PoE injectors. You pick one up, there's your power supply. And it just, to me, it makes a lot of sense.
We're taking our next break in a second here, but what size amplifier do you guys recommend to connect with those speakers?
The size that makes your neighbors angry. Okay. I mean, these things go loud. They go really loud. We use the Samson Servo 120A as like a standard, and then go hotter from there as you need to.
I love it.
I got two tins in my truck, right? I roll around with lots of noise. I like making lots of noise, and I got a loud Harley. That's my life, making lots of noise. So these
that's right,
really well. Yeah.
This Week in Radio Tech with Grant and Tyler from Pippin Technical Service. It's our 750th episode. I'm having a ball. I love talking, equipment and gear and accessories, just, things that people invent that make our lives better. Here's an accessory that'll make your life better as well. And if Henry Engineering hadn't invented it, I'll bet you Tyler and Grant would have. It is the Henry Engineering Back UPS. I love this box. I love it so much. I think I've bought about 6 of them myself so far. This is a really, really fast switcher between 2 different AC sources. And what you do with the Back UPS, the one thing that I can say for sure is that if you have a UPS to power the things in your rack, my experience has been it's going to fail. It is absolutely positively going to fail. It's going to let you down. And all your servers are going to die, and it's just going to be a big mess. Well, of course, if you got a server, you probably have 2 power supplies in it. But what about all your gear that doesn't have 2 power supplies, but needs to act like it has 2 power? It needs to have reliable AC input. Like in Oxford, Mississippi, I built a radio station, and one rack is full of 2 power supply stuff. And of course, that's powered from 2 different power strips, and so should likely never be without power. But the other rack has a number of items in it that only have 1 power supply in them. There are some Ethernet switches that I have that are critical that only have 1 power supply. There's the EAS equipment. There's several things. There's some of our playout computers only have 1 power supply, whereas our file server, does have 2. Well, use the Back UPS. The Back UPS, you plug one of its inputs into your UPS output, and the other one you plug into normal shore power, normal AC commercial power. And if and when the UPS dies, or if you've just got to turn it off and run a battery test, or change the batteries in it, well, the back UPS will switch really quickly over to the line input, and your servers, your equipment that only has one power supply won't know the difference. And I have tested this over and over again. It works like a champ. I really love this thing. We put 4 of these at our new stations in Maui. We've got 4 racks there, and most of the gear only has one power supply. So, man, the back UPS from Henry Engineering, really smart thing to do. You can also, it can give you GPOs on it to let you know, hey, I'm not on the UPS anymore. So that's helpful, really helpful there. You can also set a time delay for returning to the UPS. So you want to make sure the UPS is up and stable and not just sputtering. Well, you put a time delay, dial it in there with the dip switches. The back UPS from Henry Engineering. Love this box. Use it myself. You should too. And you can get it from Broadcasters General Store. Their website is bgs.cc. bgs.cc, and you can call them because they love to talk to you on the phone, unlike so many companies these days. BGS will love to talk to you. They'll whisper sweet nothings and low prices into your ear at 352-622-7700. You can call them right now. They're open right now. There's someone to answer your call at 352-622-7700. Thanks so much, BGS and Hank Landsberg at Henry Engineering, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Okay, guys, back at it here real quick. We got a couple more items to hit on. And if you want to talk about something that I'm not bringing up, do it. I thought it would be a little bit interesting to talk about, along with our topic, how it is that smart systems and smart accessories really speed up studio construction and studio troubleshooting and maintenance after you've built the studio. I know that, man, I'm part owner of 21 radio stations, and I rarely visit them now because almost everything we can do remotely. Tyler, Grant, talk to me about that aspect of this kind of networked stuff.
Go, Grant.
Go, Grant.
I think the benefits are fairly obvious and self-evident in a lot of ways. The more visibility you have on any of the systems, the easier it is to do the remote troubleshooting. Like alongside selling the gear, we also support we support everything we sell. And we're there along with people for the ride. And if something comes up, we're dialing in. And the fact that if you can get to a GUI, you can see things, it just makes it so much easier. And if it's something that you can, again, click, plug and play, it's going to be a lot easier for the initial configuration, but also for people that are going to be doing troubleshooting or non-technical users on the other end. Part of the incentive for the whole solderless studio, it comes from where the industry is going, where the next generation of engineers are coming from. If people are coming from an IT background, giving them a Cat 5 makes things a little more familiar, I guess, than, here's a soldering iron, here's some lead-free solder, go have fun. It makes it more approachable, it makes it more familiar, more comfortable, and it also speeds things up in a lot of cases. As much that can be pre-wired and plug and play as you can.
You guys not only are equipment dealers and inventors and builders, designers of accessory equipment and fundamental infrastructure equipment, but you also do installations out in the field. You have a good relationship with a lot of Canadian broadcasters, and you do those. So they count on you to come in, do the job, pretty right the first time, and not have to make a bunch of return visits. Am I close to being right there?
That's a very good point, is that we talk a lot about, it's you can't make any mistakes between the time you leave here and get there and come back. Once you're out there, and you can't be expected to be running off to somewhere. I mean, if you get stuck and you can pick up the phone, but time is money, and we're out there to do a job and get home. So return trips are often, they're frowned upon, but they're often impossible. So it all has to get done right on the first try. And it's not just, another part of this is not just us. A lot of the stations that we work with, they'll have a person that's responsible for a great number of radio stations in an area or even across the country. And so we often are leaving one of or a few individuals responsible for that, and we want them to be able to support their own stuff too. They may be the first call that comes in before we get a call. So we want to make sure that the stuff that we do is supportable, that they are able to do logins and do things remotely and all those kinds of things. And I mean, that's just the direction that the industry and most industry is going. Everyone's asked to do more with less. And so, a lot of the things that we design and make here, if it wasn't with that in mind, it's oftentimes that is the sole purpose of it, is to make it quicker and easier and more reliable and more serviceable from afar. And so you keep the parts counts low and keep everything kind of the same. We're working on common look and feel on all of our interfaces. So when you log in, they all kind of look similar, so you're not getting lost and stuff like that. And, we learn all of this from companies like Telos Alliance that we're so closely associated with. And we're certainly learning how all of this development happens and trying to incorporate our own twist on all of that. So, and it's all, to make life easier and better for people.
Tyler and Grant, we're actually going to be running pretty short of time, but I'd like to get a comment from you, something we touched on in our pre-show discussion. If you could help us understand, engineers often don't really have to think about the business side of supply chain. We've done a few shows on that. The CEO of Telos Alliance, Scott Stiefel, was with us a couple, 3 years ago and did a wonderful job of explaining supply chain challenges during the whole COVID thing. But with the U.S., with the president we've got right now using tariffs or the threat of tariffs as a negotiating tool, it sets people on edge. We don't know what's coming down the pike. It may just all, everybody agreed? Okay, it's go away, or it's going to be a low tariff, or no, we're going to put in a big tariff until you guys behave right. Speaking of whoever he's talking to, not necessarily the Canadians. So how do these uncertain business times, how do you react, or how do you plan for that so that you can continue to serve your customers in a reasonable business way?
Well, that's a great question, and I was looking forward to being able to talk about this, and it's probably a whole segment. I'll try to go quick because there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say about it, and this is one of the things that we do for people, and we don't expect broadcasters to understand and know this kind of stuff. The way I look at it, this is one of our responsibilities to the industry, is to sort all this kind of stuff out, to figure it all out for people. And there's been a lot of learning. Now, we've been importing and exporting for years and years, and it's been pretty straightforward. Yes, the vast majority of what we do is with the United States, and it's been pretty simple. And but what we've had to do is really basically zoom in on all of the details that go into importing goods and learning what a HS codes. Like, I've sat down and learned what every digit of the HS codes means. I could tell you if you're really interested. That's probably a talk for another day. But what it comes down to is making sure that our customers are as educated with their purchase decisions as possible. I don't like hitting people up with surprises. I don't like saying, here's what this is going to cost, and there might be an additional cost. So we go to great lengths to try to determine what HS code are we going to be able to get this in here on, and is that going to work? And we're always trying to basically make things cost effective for people. So it has slowed things down a lot. People might say, oh, give me a quote on a mic preamp. And you'd think, well, I'll just get the number and suit it back, or and I should hear back right away. And especially back in March and April, I mean, every step was like running through molasses, because you had to do all this research, country of origin, what tariff code, and it just goes on. And just when you think you've got it covered, they go either change the rules, or somebody comes up and says, oh, I actually want one of these now, and it's something you haven't dealt with in a really long time. So it has really slowed the process down and made things a challenge. But what I'm really pleased to say is that a lot of items that we sell are still coming through without any, they're calling them surcharges. I don't believe that's the right word to use, but that is actually the official word that they call the additional costs associated with bringing things from the States into Canada. They call it a surcharge. It's a retaliatory tariff is really what it is, in my opinion. So the majority of items do not have retaliatory tariffs on them, but some do. Stuff that's phone related is real hard. Stuff like headphones is really hard. Speakers are hard, but if you get them from a company made in Canada, they're tariff free. So, and that's another thing that we do, is try to find alternative items that maybe are not covered by tariffs for one reason or another, whether we can get a different code or country of origin. And that's a whole nother conversation. What does country of origin really mean? How much of it is? If I buy a Quasar console and there's a bunch of fader banks plus a power supply plus a frame, and the frame comes from the States and the fader modules come from one offshore country and the power supply comes from the other offshore country, what's the HS code? What is the country of origin? And these are the things that we've had to learn about and doing a bunch of dipsy diving and a lot of conversations with our partner companies to come up with strategies so that if things do happen or get worse, how can we mitigate it to make sure that we protect our customers and or at least provide them with the least amount of trouble as possible. Trouble meaning more cost. So that's been a big part of my life for the last couple of months is tariff stuff and codes and everything else. That's probably why getting on a show like this and talking about stuff again is great, because it sure beats looking at spreadsheets and numbers all the time.
Good explanation. I appreciate it. And our time is short, but here's what we're going to do. Got one more little commercial break here. I'm going to tell you about a couple of our cool sponsors. And when we come back, we'll have just a few seconds for a tip of the week, maybe from each of you. If you have a tip of the week, you'd like to, leave some wisdom in the ears and brains of our listeners and me. Our show is brought to you in part by Angry Audio. Angry Audio, my good friends just down the road, they make they're a little bit like PTS. They invent cool stuff that people need. And one of the really wonderful things that they've invented is the Rave console. The Rave console is it's an analog audio console. There's no digital in it. And sometimes that's just exactly what you need. If you look at Angry Audio's Facebook page, you'll see story after story of really happy customers, podcast studios, radio stations, LPFMs, educational stations, commercial stations as well, using the Rave console because it's perfect for so many situations. It's got 4 mic or line inputs. The mic preamps are super high quality because they're designed by Mike Dosh. And, the guy used to design consoles for PRNE and for Telos Alliance, for Axia. It also has all the audio connectors are the Studio Hub standard. So they plug right in to give you audio ins and audio outs. The microphones are on XLR connectors because, most people, they want that for their microphones. It's got some mix minus buses for your phone, for your codec. It's got these beautiful faders. They operate, they're silky smooth, wonderful faders, aviation grade buttons, switches throughout. This thing is really put together. And you know what? It's heavy. You pick this thing up and you think, wow, I have paid for some weight here because of the way the console sandwiches together. It's just amazing. The design is beautiful. The audio is crystal clean, perfect, low distortion, just beautiful, beautiful audio. From Angry Audio, the Rave console, call your favorite dealer and check it out. It is perfect for so many situations. Our show is also brought to you by Max Connect, and these people just keep inventing stuff like Tyler and Grant at PTS. Max Connect, the U192 is a very specifically designed input-output device, and it's necessary if you want to do FM audio processing on a PC. So, there's some FM audio processors out there now. Probably Stereo Tool may be the most popular one out there. There's also one offered by Omnia. They're the Omnia SST. And then there's also Breakaway One. So any of these will run in a Windows environment on a PC, and you can make them run super reliably. Well, I've got some Omnia SSTs running, and they just run and run and run. But if you want to get the multiplex signal out of your PC, how are you going to do that? Well, there's a couple of sound cards that have been on the market that, come and go, and they're a little hard to find, and they purportedly can do the job. But if you actually want to do the job right and get that multiplex composite signal out of your computer and into your FM transmitter or into your 950 megahertz STL that takes composite in and delivers composite to the transmitter, here's what you need. The Max Connect U.192 USB interface. Now, this connects USB, no extra drivers needed. It's a class compliant device. It gives you analog in and analog out from your PC through this device. It also gives you digital in and out it also gives you the composite outputs, and that's what's critical. That is, the design has got to be right for that to work. You've got to have basically down to DC coupling in there, and you've got to have beautifully flat frequency response, and phase group delays got to be just perfect, way up to way up high, up into the 60, 70 kilohertz area. And that's what this thing excels at. The U192 MPX USB sound card. This is what you need to get MPX out of your computer if you're running one of these software audio processors. Check it out from Max Connect, and you can buy it from your favorite equipment dealer. Thanks a lot, Max Connect, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right, gentlemen, we've got just a couple of minutes. Tyler, can you enlighten us with some wisdom and a tip of the week?
I'm probably going to say tip of the week is kind of put me on the spot, and then I got listening to your break there, and I totally forgot to come up with something. So it's fine. It's spellbinding. I was thinking of why isn't that thing POE? But anyways, no, I'm just kidding. My tip of the week would probably be to support your local organizations, and in Canada we have a couple that are the ones that we really like to support is CCBE and WABE or WABI, and it's this year's WABI's 75th. And I'd really like to just mention, if you can go, we would love to see you. We're planning to be at both, obviously. With 75th, I know that the committee at WABI is working really hard to come up with a great show. It's in Calgary at the end of September. We'd love to see you people there. Come on out, even if you're having to come across the border. If you're coming from the States, everything costs like 5 cents to you, so it's a cheap trip.
Hey, Suncast, put my picture on full. If you want to put me on full screen for a sec, there you go. I support you, WABI.
Wow, there's beautiful.
There's the Canadian maple leaf and the whole WABI thing.
Yeah,
and
come join us at WABI.
WAB radio. That's
I know it looks like the WABE. No, come on up to and I just encourage people whether you're Canadian or down in another country, the United States or somewhere else. It's important to support those organizations. SBE is all over the place. Support those organizations as best you can. Support your dealers. We're doing our best to support the broadcasters. It's a partnership. I believe in that. It's a relationship. And so I guess my tip is let's all look after one another. Our industry is under attack from outside, and we need to remember that, and that we're all together, especially on the engineering side, and let's work together to proliferate this industry for as long as we can.
They're working on your behalf, and that's good to support them. Grant, you got 17 and a half seconds. Go.
I'll keep it short. I'm just going to say, please, for the love of all that's holy, document. One of the main things we always get called at here is like, what was that serial number, or what was that license key? Save it, document it, pass it along to the next person. It's not even for your records. It's for whoever has to come behind you. Just keep that handy and accessible.
Indeed. Good. And you know what? One of the best tools to document these days is your phone. You can take pictures of. I had to report serial number of a computer that I bought back to the home office. So picture, take care of that. Sometimes my wife needs her green card, and there's a picture of it on my phone, and I can just, Google search that, and bam, bring it right up. Here's the number, sweetheart. Yeah, document. There's lots of ways to document, but if all else fails, use that camera phone. Tyler and Grant, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate your participation, especially on short notice. It's been always great talking to you guys. I appreciate you so much, and I guess I'll get to see you at WABI. When is that? Is that August, September? When is that?
End of September 29th,
30th, October 1st, something like that.
All right, good.
On their website.
Hey, big thanks. Hey, we'll put a link to that website, the WABI website, on the show notes. Big thanks to Suncast. Wonderful job, Suncast. Thank you for switching today's show and producing it. We'll see you next week. Next week, we got an interesting guest. Well, if you're from the U.S. and you remember listening to ABC News back in the 70s and 80s, we're going to be talking to Bob Hart, ABC News. That's coming up next week. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.